Welcome to the Green Chair interviews. Today we have Ed Wasiak from the Faculty of Education. Welcome, Ed. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Perfect. We would like to know, what is your philosophy of teaching?
First of all, I think that teaching is one of the most important professions, perhaps even goes beyond a profession to a vocation. So I take my teaching very seriously, and I try to model that and instill that in my students, who are future educators as well. So I think one of the most important things that's widely recognized as a key aspect of teaching is passion. So I'm very passionate about teaching, and I have the good fortune of working with wonderful students, and they tend to be pretty passionate as well, and we kind of feed off each other, I think, a lot of the times. One of the things that I'm trying to do, and Parker Palmer in his The Courage to Teach book talks about this, is connecting self with students and subject material.
Okay.
And I think that that's kind of a really key part of my philosophy.
Okay, that sounds really wonderful. So in instilling the passion for education and teaching to your students, what would you say a typical class setting of yours looks like?
First of all, our classes in the Ed faculty are 3 hours long, so it can't be, lecture for 3 hours. Absolutely, because you'd have people sleeping, yeah, pretty quickly. So it will be a combination of activities. I do a little bit of lecturing when need be. I sometimes refer to those in my own lesson plans as lecturettes, like 5 to 10 minutes on a given topic. And then a combination of activities. In some cases, I'm modeling an activity, actually teaching a little mini lesson, and then we debrief and look at that from a teacher's perspective. I sometimes will have the students do a number of things after I've done one of these little lecturettes, where they're sharing their ideas or discussing amongst themselves, either maybe with what we might refer to as their elbow partner, the person next to them, or in small groups. And so it's a combination of things, and I find that that's pretty effective at keeping students awake, active, and engaged.
Okay, so with your lecturettes and preparing for your class, how would you say you best prepare for a class of yours?
Well, I'm a proponent and user of what's known in education research now as understanding by design, which is a pretty popular approach to teaching and planning for teaching. Part of understanding by design is starting with the end it's like the Stephen Covey notion of begin with the end in mind. So figuring out what your learning outcomes are for the day, figuring out how you're going to know if you got there, in other words, the assessment, and finally, you asked earlier about the instructional activities, so then figuring out, well, what are the best learning activities that we can do in this class today, or perhaps also through an assignment, so that they're going to reach the intended learning outcomes.
Right. Well, that sounds really wonderful. It sounds great that you're, bringing your passion into future educators, and we're really glad that you're here today, and thank you for joining us. It's great to have you.
You're most welcome.
Thanks.